was out to get me. That's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. Yes, I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. Oh, I'm a believer. I'm a believer. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm a believer. I'm a believer. I'm a believer. Not a doubt in my mind. I'm a believer. I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
There's a girl I know who makes me feel so good, and I wouldn't live without her, even if I could. They call her Valerie. I love Valerie. Oh yeah, come on. She's the same little girl who used to hang around my door, but she sure looks different than the way she looked before. I call her Valerie. I love her
She told me that she loved me, and like a fool I believed it from the start. She said she'd never hurt me, but then she turned around and broke my heart. Why am I standing here, missing her and wishing she were here? Hey! She only did me wrong. Hey! I'm better off alone. She devoured all my sweet love, took all I had and then she fed me dirt. She laughed when I was crying. It was such a joke to see the way it hurt. Why am I standing here, missing her and wishing she were here? Hey! She only did me wrong. Hey! I'm better off alone. And now I know just why she keeps me hanging round. She needs someone to walk on, so her She's a wonderful lady and she's mine, all mine. And there doesn't seem a way that she won't come and lose my mind. It's too easy humming songs to a girl in yellow dress. It's been a long time since the party and the room is in a mess. The four kings of EMI are sitting stately on the floor. There are birds out on the sidewalk and a valet at the door. He reminds me of a penguin with few and plaster hair. There's talcum powder on the letter and the birthday boy is there. Why don't you cut your hair? Why don't you live up there? Why don't you do what I do, see what I feel when I care? Now they've darkened all the windows and the seats in Naugahyde. I've been waiting for an hour, I can't find a place to hide. The being known as Wonder Girl is speaking, I believe. It's not easy trying to tell her that I shortly have to leave. Why don't you be like me? Why don't you stop and see? Why don't you hate who I hate, kill who I kill to be free? Why don't you cut your hair? Why don't you live up there? Why don't you do what I do, see what I feel when I care? Why don't you be like me? Why don't you stop and see? Why don't you hate who I hate, kill who I kill to be free? Why don't you cut your hair? Why don't you live up there? Why don't you do what I do, see what I feel when I'm there?
I wanna be free, like the bluebirds flying by me, like the waves out on the blue sea. If your love has to tie me, don't try me, say goodbye.
On the right thing.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am John Mann, Director of Education for Lakeside, and our speaker for the pre-concert talk is Dr. Catherine Metz. She joins us from Oberlin College and Conservatory, where she is Director of Musical Studies, Mellon Mays Undergraduate Fellowship Administrative Coordinator, and Senior Lecturer. Prior to Oberlin, Catherine worked in secondary education and directed community and family programming at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. And today's talk is titled, "The Monkees Predicted the Future, Boy Bands, Marketing, and Crossover Media Success." We'll show how the Monkees cemented their legacy by successfully generating the boy band formula that groups from subsequent generations have copied again and again. And we'll dig into how the Monkees achieved their success and how they proved critics wrong with skilled musicianship, charming personalities, and lucrative forays into other media. I would ask if you would please mute yourself from ringers if you haven't already, and help me in welcoming Dr. Metz to Lakeside.
Hi, I'm so glad you're here. I promise there's plenty of room at Hoover. You're gonna get an amazing seat, and it's gonna be incredible. I've seen Mr. Dolan's perform several times. He's come to the Rock Hall before, even though they're not inducted, and I know y'all have a beef with that, and I get it. Plenty of people ain't been inducted yet. They're working on it. I mean, slowly. We can have that conversation another day. But I'm really glad to be here. I'm honored to be here. But before I get started, I want to, I play the flute, which I've played since the 5th grade, 1988. And Mr. Arsenault was my band director there. That was in Bristol, Rhode Island. My dad was in the Navy for 27 years, so I've lived all over the place. And eventually we landed, my dad went to Ohio State in the 60s. He arted and ROTC'd. He didn't music. But and swim team, swimming. But he wanted me to go to Ohio State, and I did not want to, because we moved to Columbus, Ohio, my junior year of high school, and it was just too close. But the high school that I went to, that I got to choose, because it had a great music program, was Westerville South High School on the northeast, sorry, I had to turn around and look at the map, upper right part of Columbus, where my band director, which again, I chose this place because it had great music, my band director had dotted the I at Ohio State back in, I would assume, the early 80s, sometime in the 80s, maybe late 70s, I'm not sure, because this was 1994 at the time that he told me this, and I knew and loved, because I give zero poops about football, but I love the Ohio State marching band, and I always have since I was a small child. No matter where we lived in the United States, we would always go to the games. So I like to introduce myself and meet people, and I just met sort of the reason that I am here today, which is Mr. Mr. Drosty, who was a professor at Ohio State, who had Dustin Warner as his band student, who dotted the I in the 80s, who then was my band director at Westerville South between 1994 and 1996, when we were the AAA National Champions of Bands of America, and then I decided that I was going to go to college to major in music. So it's that guy's fault. So, Mr. Drosty is here, and because of Mr. Drosty, I eventually moved away from music education because I realized that I actually can't keep a beat. Also, did I mention I play the flute? So we're just going to be clear about that. And eventually I get my PhD in ethnomusicology, and then I actually work at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where I actually meet Mickey Dolenz a couple times, and now I can talk about stuff like this with lots of debt. So super worth it. But this really is exciting stuff because, I think most people know the Monkees because you've heard the song or you've seen if you're my age, I'm 47? Yeah, 47? I was born in, oh, yeah. I'm 47 and a half. So even I saw reruns of the Monkees. And my parents were born in the 40s, and so I listened to, I listened to the Monkees. I knew who the Monkees were. But I didn't really appreciate the impact of the Monkees, honestly, until preparing for this talk. Because these guys came on the scene, and I personally have come to believe over the past month that they set the model for boy bands, reality TV, and multi-channeled or multimedia spaces popular music. I really think that these guys were it. I think Brian Epstein he tried with the Beatles. I think Colonel Tom Parker tried with Elvis Presley. They got the marketing thing off the ground, though. That's fair. Okay, good job, Colonel Parker. But generally speaking, I really think the Monkees set the model for now. I think it is their fault / we should thank them or not for things like One Direction, depending on how you feel. So I want to kind of give you a little bit of a background or remind you if you're already a big fan, sort of a little bit about how this came to be. So Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider were part of this Hollywood new wave. This is the idea in the mid to late 60s where we started to really try to push the boundaries of film, cinema, and television. And so these guys say they came up with this idea on their own to start this show that started on NBC and eventually moves over to CBS. They say they came up with this idea on their own, but there were a few precedents sort of with this idea of taking a band and putting them on the big screen. I'm going to give you a little tangent now just for a brief moment. When I worked at the Rock Hall, I had to go to Clear Lake, Iowa for a week to celebrate the 50th anniversary. It's called 50 Winters Later, of the day the music died, right? That was in February of 2009. And I had the privilege of interviewing a number of folks I interviewed Richie Valens' family. I interviewed Maria Elena Hawley, Buddy Holly's widow, and I got to also interview JD, the Big Bopper Jr., who says that the Big Bopper is the first person to create a music video. If you look at his music video for Chantilly Lace, you're like, okay. But I think it's kind of, sort of, but I think this is really the start of it, right? So this idea of a music video with help and then a Hard Day's Night, this idea that you can have some sort of cinematic narrative about a popular band really happens with these guys. So whether these new Hollywood guys just came up with this on their own or whether they might have been influenced by some things beforehand, they had this idea for a TV show that they had a few years before this actually aired. And it takes a little while to greenlight this stuff. Greenlight, I say like I work in the biz. I don't work in the biz. I'm in a rural college in the middle of nowhere, Lorraine County. But let's pretend. Before it got greenlit, there's this setup that they understood. And they understood the American teenager. So this word teenager became new in 1941. It was the first time we had a teenager. Not the first time we had a teenager. We've always had adolescents turning between the ages of 13 and 19. But this, the term teenager, comes out in 1941. And then we have a global skirmish. And then things generally change. Because after World War II, we start to have this teenager becomes a marketing category. It becomes a demographic that matters. It used to be you would just work for your parents and then go back and work for your parents on the farm, in the factory, wherever, right? Or if you're a socialite, you keep being a socialite and be rich, like whatever it is that rich people do. I'm unfamiliar. But this idea of the teenager became a thing that people realized they could make money on. And this is just a few different examples of some magazines, so some media that came out around the teenager. And I'd like to draw your attention to, in 1947, the first issue of 17 magazine comes out. And they said, 17 is your magazine, high school girls of America, all yours. It's interested only in you and in everything that concerns, excites, annoys, pleases, or perplexes you. I'm not entirely sure if that really works because a lot of it was about corsets and whatnot, but you know, you do 17. But ultimately you have, and again, while teenagers are here, we're talking mostly white teenagers with a largely disposable income as we start to see the growth of the middle class. So these kids start to get their own transistor radio where they can listen to their own music that's not their parents' music, right? We don't got some Glenn Miller going on. I mean, whatever. I also listen to Glenn Miller and like the Ink Spots because like my grandparents were born in like 1918, 1920, something like that. But like they have their own transistor radio. They can have their own little record player that plays 45s, and they can have their own. My mom used to take her Buddy Holly, or not her Buddy Holly, her Little Richard 45s and put them in the Pat Boone sleeve so she wouldn't get in trouble, right? Because like you don't want to get in trouble because sacrilege versus like good, clean fun. American Bandstand. Well, and here's the thing about American Bandstand that a lot of people don't understand. So we got Dick Clark, America's Oldest Teenager, blah, blah, blah. American Bandstand, it's playing music, people are dancing. But most cities had their own version of something like that, including Cleveland. So people had televisions, but also in 1950, we have our first color broadcast television, and everyone's got a TV in their home. So you can watch this music. You can also listen to your own music in your room or with your friends. I didn't put on here the fact that kids would go to drive-ins and drive-in movie theaters and watch, you know, scandalous movies that featured rock and roll music, or that they would go to restaurants and listen to music on jukeboxes because they had the money to go get the malt, right? And again, we're mostly talking about white teenagers here. But the power of teenagers cannot be, still to this day in 2026, cannot be overestimated. It is insane. They are such a powerful demographic. Now, when I say they're a powerful demographic, MTV would not exist without teenage boys. I'm just gonna be real. What I think is also interesting is that people continuously undermine female girl teens, right? We don't give them credit. We say they're hormonal and they're weird and they're, you know, the prepubescent and they only care about, you know, boys and girls' nails and dresses or whatever, right? But they're powerful. So up here, just to kind of give you a little bit of an example of a few changes, this is at an Elvis Presley concert. This is when the Beatles first first leaving England. This is at the Osmonds. This is Madonna fans, if that wasn't evident. That is some lady I've never heard of. And here's some One Direction folks, kids, fans, right? But we often dismiss them. That was a larger step than I anticipated. We often dismiss them, but actually, the thing is, if I can back up for a hot second, these guys wanted to push cinema and TV, and they knew that these kids had the power. So this is where I kind of want to set us up for the Monkees. For this TV show that is silly, it's kind of bad, definitely cheesy, very goofy. The acting is like, the storylines are, but it's so much fun. And they knew that teenagers were going to eat this up for lunch. And this becomes a complete innovation. The fact that you would completely fabricate a band and make a whole story, silly storylines about them that also sometimes included aliens, and I'm not kidding. Do you guys remember that episode? That was my favorite when I was a kid. It was just so silly. And also because the Monkees and Mork and Mindy would be on back-to-back on the reruns, like for me, at a time in my life in like the late 80s. So it was extra special. So I remember being like, and then the Small Wonder. Does anybody remember a Small Wonder? She's a small wonder, like Vicky, yeah. All right, television in the 80s was a struggle. So you get these random kids, and somehow there's these random boys who just come together, and they have no experience, and they just happen to be the best for the Monkees. Oh, and I can give this PowerPoint to John as a PDF or a PowerPoint, and he can share it with y'all, John Mann, and he can share it with all y'all, and you can take it home, or you can email me, and I'll send it to you. Was it a random audition of bringing hundreds of boys together to try out for this TV show? You cute. Davy Jones had already been nominated for a Tony for playing the Artful Dodger on Broadway, okay? Like, you know, he's no schlub. Michael Nesmith had already written stuff for Stone Ponies. Who fronted the Stone Ponies? Linda Ronstadt, exactly. Some random lady, right? Also inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Mickey Dolenz had already starred as a child. He was a child star on Circus Boy, which I could not find footage of, but I desperately want to. And Peter York, Stephen Stills had originally been asked to be on the show, and he's like, I don't have time, but I go to this great musician, right? Peter York, who had already been on the scene as a musician. So, sure, random audition? No. All these guys had an edge. They already had skills. They had improvisation skills. They had skills on just being a charismatic person, on acting, and being musicians already in their own right. And they went ahead and fulfilled this idea of like, who's this, like the Spice Girls? You know, you got Posh, and you got Sporty, and then you got other ones that I can't remember. But they copied this. They weren't like, it's some brand new thing. No, this is the thing. You got the cute one with Davy Jones, the funny one with Mickey, the defiant one with Michael Nesmith, who apparently would give people a little bit of crap. Try not to swear. And Peter York, the quiet one, so introspective, right? In some ways, that models off of the Beatles. But ultimately, when you put this together, you take the charisma, the skills, the media mastery, and the machine that was everybody who worked together to write these, and those directors with Bob, and what's his name, you get all this together to create this formula that has been copied time and time and time and time again, and has allowed for a lot of other things to happen. So I want to give you a little bit of an example of these lovable dorks, because those rambunctious monkeys, because while this was fabricated, there was some real magic happening here. And I'm going to give you a little example. I'm not going to play the whole bit, but let's see, what time is it? 6:30, we got time. I'll play a little bit from, let's just for old time's sake go from the top of the show.
We're being invaded by Martians!
cool, eh? It's the Four Martians.
Hi, what's that, babe? What's happening?
We need a guitar string.
Oh, okay. I think I got it. Yeah, which one do you need?
You got a B?
Yeah, B. Okay. What, are you guys playing a gig or something?
Petter, we're auditioning for Hubble Benson.
Hubble Benson, the TV producer?
Yeah, he's looking for a singing group to star in his new TV show. Didn't you guys get an invitation?
Oh, sure we did.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, well, okay. We'll see you at the audition. Thanks for the string.
Yeah.
Later.
Thanks. Good luck. Hey, let's check the mail.
Bill, a bit. Hey, there's nothing but bills here.
How come the Martians got an invitation and we didn't?
Well, you know, there are probably like very few invitations, 2 or 3.
Sure. Hey, it's the foreign agents.
Hi, man. Did you get your invitation?
No, you see, our mail doesn't come till late Monday.
Oh, like Thursday.
Well, got a split for rehearsal. This is our big chance.
Big chance.
Oh, hey, it's the Jolly Green Giant.
Yo ho ho!
Hey, what's new, Jolly Green Giants? Ho, ho, ho.
Hiya, monkeys. You want to know what we got in the mail?
Yes.
An autographed photo of Annette Funicello.
Oh. We thought you meant you got an invitation to Benson's audition.
Oh, yeah, we got that, too.
Here we come, walking down the street. We get the funniest looks from everyone we meet. Hey, hey, we're the monkeys, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. We're just trying to be friendly. I'll come and watch you sing and play. We're the young generation, and we got something to say. Hey, we're the monkeys. You never know where we'll be found, so you better get ready. We may be coming to your town.
Yeah, we'll have those contracts.
This is the big-time producer. Come on in, you guys. Come on in, have a seat. This is the big-time producer who's looking for the next act that they didn't get the invitation for. And then, of course, chaos ensues. There's shenanigans, and I'm thinking of other words for shenanigans, but I can't think of any. But hijinks, and it's a whole thing that is really sweet and funny and silly and dumb and goofy and all the things, right? You can see, yeah, the acting's fine, but it's high energy. They have great physical comedy. They each clearly embody one of those personalities and one of those characteristics. But what the thing about the monkeys that is amazing beyond their sort of incredible ability to harness all these different media channels, again, that we'll dig into in a second, is that they learned on the fly. They learned fast how to be a band. And a lot of people, and the reason they broke up ultimately is because people didn't take them seriously. And I'm gonna come to this, their very first performance, which was before the show even launched, in a hot second. But I'm gonna give you a personal example. I started playing the flute in 1988, as I mentioned. I get the job at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2008. And the first thing I'm told is I need to learn how to play the drums, like the kit. And I'm like, okay. And I learn very fast, I mean within like 3 days, how to get a basic beat down. And then I also have to learn the basic bass. Because it turns out that Chubby Checker's gonna be there, and he's gonna do a thing with the kids, and I need to play the drums behind Chubby Checker. This is a terrible idea, and yet one that had to happen. And I had to learn it. I am a mediocre musician. I am not great. I do not suck. Ringing endorsement for playing with, a superstar. But I learned, because I worked my butt off, and I got those little rubbery drum pads, and I just sat there and just was doing this all the time until I could get the basic beat. And then later I had to learn the bass and play that, and I've played with a lot of people that I should not be playing with or should never have been played with, but I did because I was able to get the basics down, because I worked real hard in a real short window of time. It can be done. I mean, look at the Sex Pistols, okay? Right? Look at Jack White and the White Stripes and Beth White, who, like, let's be honest, she's not a great drummer, but she made it work, right? You can make it work, and you can work your butt off, and you can get something going, and you can sound good, especially if you like your bandmates. In Cleveland, there's something called Lottery League, which is where about 150 or 70 musicians are arbitrarily put into about 50 new bands, and they have 2 months to put together 10 minutes of original material, and they do it, and it's great. And those are musicians of various ilks, and they've been doing this for a long time, and it really is an exceptional challenge. So as soon as these guys got officially cast, they were not asked to work hard to become incredible musicians. They just busted ass, excuse my language. And their very first performance was before the show aired on September 12th, 1966, in a place that was named for the day, guess it, Clarksdale? Take the last train to Clarksdale, I'll meet you at the station. Yeah, exactly. It was temporarily named just for the day. The mayor of Del Mar, California said, sure, you can name it. These guys were flown in on a helicopter. This is 1966. I don't know, I mean, flying on a helicopter is expensive now. Can you imagine what it was then? Like, a lot. They were flown in on a helicopter. They actually performed Last Train to Clarksdale on the back of a train in Del Mar, California, on September 12, 1966. They played. And we're not going to listen to that tune because I like this one better. But the fact that they were able to do that, I think, shows their chutzpah, and I think shows their desire to do well and be well. And the reason I picked this one, not only because I like it better, but because this is an interesting challenge for them. They meet, they know they're going to be on this show, they make a bunch of it, they record the episodes, they have to go play, and then the episodes air, and now they have to be in a band and pretend to be in a band and also be in a band. So they also are playing songs. They were brought in, they bring in the Brill Building heavy hitters. You guys know about Tin Pan Alley-ish? Tin Pan Alley. So Tin Pan Alley from about like 1890 to 1930-ish is this street in New York where people literally clock in and clock out to make songs, right? So Dorothy Fields writes, on the sunny side of the street. You get Cole Porter, you get Irving Berlin, you get all these amazing, and that's really the birth of the American like pop song, right? Taking from vaudeville and minstrelsy from the 1800s, comes a pop song. Later in the 1960s, this guy Phil Spector, real turd, but great idea generator, basically helps create this wall of sound and and hires all these different songwriters. So we got Carole King, and we get Ellie Greenwich and Jeff Barry. Ellie Greenwich, Jeff Barry, no, we'll work on it. But Jeff Barry ends up producing the song that was written by another Brill Building artist, Brill Building songwriter who eventually becomes an artist in his own right. You've probably never heard of him, Neil Diamond. And this song goes to the top of the charts and stays there for 6 weeks. And fun fact, Neil Diamond's on acoustic guitar on this one. But this is kind of a trick for them because they're like, they have to play this music that's written by these super professional, really incredible songwriters who were writing all the things for the Shirelles and the Dixie Cups and the Ronettes, right? And, you know, everything Darlene Love ever did with everybody she ever sang with, right? So this is like, pressure is on. And this is what happens.
Here's the monkey.
Love is only true in fairy tales, and for someone else, but not for me. Our love was out to get me, that's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Then I saw her face, now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried.
Okay, break that song down. You got the organ. He's just, he can learn that, right? You got the drums, pretty basic beat. You can figure that out if I give you a guitar. What blows my mind here, it's a great song. It's an undeniably great song. But what blows my mind here is their harmonies. Okay, you can learn to noodle and doodle and do those little things, but then you also learn to harmonize with each other. Have you ever tried to harmonize with somebody? It is not easy, right? And you're trying to hold your own note. Like, I'm an alto, alto 2, and like, sometimes you just gotta hold it, and then sometimes I get distracted by the soprano 2, and then I'm like over here somewhere, right? It's hard. That they can multitask, I think demonstrates that they actually were musicians in the first place. So I really think that truly, the Monkees were musicians, and they were actors, and they were very media savvy. They knew how to play themselves as like TV stars and music stars. And there's this chart, this is from Wikipedia, and I think it's cool because it shows how much actually all of them eventually are playing kind of a little bit of everything, right? And the fact that there had to be these defensive media blitzes to say, yes, 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 the Monkees play their own instruments, right? Buy their instruments, as told to Jeff Gold, which is just kind of cute and funny, but they know how to do it, right? They really know how to work the media machine. And if you want a little bit of a close-up here, you can see truly that there's a lot going on, right? And that they were able to hold their own. And they're decent singers, right? I really think it's that harmony, though, that kills me. So this is a kind of a fun one. Mike says, I was standing at a place where we were playing, we were backstage, and it's like 2 minutes before we're supposed to go on, and this guy walks up to me. He's a reporter, you know, like that anyway. I'm standing with my guitar over my back. He walks up to me and says, is it true that you don't play your own instruments? I said, wait a minute, I'm fixing to walk out there in front of 15,000 people, man. If I don't play my own instruments, I'm in a lot of trouble. Right? Like, he's like, oh, excuse me. Yes, I do. And, right? So if you think about this idea of solidifying the genre of a boy band, of a generated, of a like a fabricated boy band, and being on television, and touring and generating fans, and singing their own songs, and playing their own instruments, it's a lot. Like, you get the audience investment, reality ends up scripted, you get fictional reality, which fabricates relationships, and interesting. We see that in little snippets here, there, and everywhere over time, right? It's a thing to have these different forms of media interact. You've probably said Kay's Choice was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the Ramones were on Simpsons, Stevie Wonder was on The Cosby Show, Prince was on The New Girl with Zooey Deschanel, right? Sonic Youth was on Gossip Girl. You can't see, I wish you could see the things. But Bob Dylan was on Dharma and Greg, which is a short run and very cheesy show that I actually did enjoy. Boyz II Men was on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? And then we actually had musicians starring in sitcoms. Do you remember? Listen to a story about a man named Jed, poor mountaineer, barely kept his family fed, right? Right? So, like, Flatt and Scruggs actually played characters, not only played the music on Beverly Hillbillies, but also played characters on Beverly Hillbillies. Right? Queen Latifah was in Living Color, right? Sarah Bareilles in this Girls 5 Eva, which is just a relatively recent one, and let's not forget about the very charming New Zealand duo, The Flight of the Conchords, and if you haven't watched that, you should, because it's ridiculous and amazing. And if you've ever seen Moana, the Shiny by that big crab, that's one of those two dudes, but I can't remember which one, because they sound the same. So they basically created this formula. If you had other boy groups, if you had the Four Freshmen, the Animals, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, I really believe that what the Monkees were able to do ends up creating the Sex Pistols completely generated, Boyz II Men completely generated, NSYNC generated, One Direction, like it was this idea of like, you gotta come and audition to be part of this thing that we're going to create. And this media model continues today. Right? We wouldn't have any of these music reality television shows, I don't think, without the Monkees. I mean, whether we want them or not. I'm sorry, I don't know. They all drive me a little bit nuts. I'd rather watch the Monkees than most of these other ones, but still. The X Factor, BTS is this Korean K-pop band that has, like, their YouTube channel is kind of insane, and that kind of counts because that's another form of media, right, that really dominates with the youth. American Idol, of course. This one up here, Cat's Eye, is interesting because there was a whole television show about the audition process, about the making of this band called Cat's Eye, this girl group called Cat's Eye. And with their thing, they're trying to basically like be all things to all people. And it's a fascinating story. There's actually a documentary about them. It's kind of problematic in a lot of ways, but also interesting. Not to mention, what's that one? The Voice, right? So I really think that the Monkees did all the things and set up everybody else to try to replicate that. And I don't think anyone's truly done it, but it certainly has spawned those next generations of musical fabrications, partnerships, television shows, and reality shows. So that's about all I've got for you today, but I want to know if you have any questions for me or ideas, contentions. Are you going to fight with me? You can if you want. I'm ready. Or you want to go see Mickey, which I also totally understand. He is still charming. He's great. What do you think? Oh, well, thank you.